Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, YouTube, Facebook, and internet. I want to wish everyone a happy Virgo season. The sun just shifted this morning at 10:55 a.m. Halamia. What a Leo season. We've got our self-love intact. And before I introduce my gorgeous guest that I've known for 21 years, I have just a few announcements to make. Go over to my website, kristenwriter.com. If you need to book an astrology reading, a sound healing, I'm going to be posting a sound bath for next month. Y'all, we are in for a September to remember, and we still have a little bit of August left. So, looking forward to all of those things. And welcome to episode 10 of Who Are You? Who, dun, 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 dun. Who are you? Boom, boom. Who. And I am so grateful to be here with my fabulous guest, Miss Hollis Welsh, who is the amazing creatress of the Open That Door podcast.
Yes.
Hollis Welsh, welcome.
Thank you, Kristen Ryder. I'm so happy to be here.
I am so honored to have you here. And thank you for having me on your amazing podcast.
Yes.
And you aired it yesterday.
It's live yesterday, and it's on YouTube too.
And it's on YouTube too. Did we plan that?
The stars did. They aligned.
The stars did. The stars aligned, darling. Oh my gosh, I love it. So you and I met literally 21 years ago in LA, well, in Studio City, in the cutest studio apartment
It was.
ever. And I took over her lease, y'all. Took over her lease.
And we met as you knocked on my door. That was I opened that door, and look at where I am 21 years later.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I love it. As I talk about full circle, it's so fantastic. The synchronicities are they're coming in strong right now. Coming in strong. No, and you're not in California, and you don't have to disclose where you live if you don't want, but
that's okay. No, I'm not in California. I left California, went to New York after you and I met, and then went back to LA for a while. And now I'm okay. I'm in Idaho, which is my home state, which has been a really interesting journey to be in Idaho.
I bet. I'm sorry. I just think about French fries.
Yeah, as you should. Simplot, baby.
They're just delicious.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So are you, we were both performers back then, 21 years ago. We don't have to do the math because it doesn't matter. And now, like, your whole arc of your career has shifted as 21 years of life on this planet can. So were you still performing when you went to New York and then back to LA?
Yep, all of that.
You are not only a beautiful actress and a Libra, but you've written scripts, you've produced. Like, what's some of your history there to share?
Yeah, I mean, I started out doing physical theater up in, I started in LA, and then I moved up to Seattle, which was this like playground for physical-based theater, one-woman shows. That's where I started. I loved it, and because it was expression beyond just a script. You were using your full body. And at the time, it just felt really creative. And then I did the LA thing and the New York, did theater and some TV. And then when I did I started producing in New York. My ex-husband and I did a festival of new faces. I think we did this festival where we invited people to come put their piece on. It was so long ago, I don't even remember where we did it. But fast forward, when I got to Idaho, I started building companies because I saw the opportunity to create kind of a middle ground here. There were a couple of professional theaters and then a bunch of community-based theaters, like non-professional fun. They were fun, but there was not that middle ground of these are serious artists who want to perform. Maybe they're not ready for, I don't know, the bigger theaters, but there's got to be a middle ground to develop talent here. So I did a lot of that, and I did then moved into like managing CEO of some of the bigger arts organizations, which led me to the end of that road in the arts.
Really? Because it was what was that challenge that you were like, "This ain't for me?"
Yeah. Well, as everything is shifting, there is a sense of like trying to maintain the way we do arts in this country, and we rely on subscribers and patrons and sponsors, and we need, the arts need so much money coming in from the outside because ticket sales don't cover the costs of running a company. And then I was facilitating a playground for artists, and I became the administrator. And it didn't fit anymore. It was really great though to like prove to myself I can run these, multi-million-dollar companies. I can connect with audiences. I think as an artist, I was grounded enough to know how to connect with the people who are coming to these performances and whatnot. But I think it helped me realize I can run companies, and I don't really want to use other people's scripts and platforms anymore.
Isn't that like that's I just got goosebumps as you said
Mm,
that, I think, especially as we become older and we're moms
right.
and, getting that into the mix of things, it's like we have something to say that isn't someone else's words,
Mhm,
and that our message can come through authentically,
mhm.
and it doesn't have to be swayed or slayed based upon politics, budget,
Board
politics.
boardroom decision
Yeah,
making.
yeah,
Mhm,
like, even I ran into that doing, one of my one-woman shows here in Asheville, and great theater company, NC Stage, but I did not have ultimate creative expression, and,
mm,
I mean, that's the whole reason to
right.
create, right?
Yeah. I think it germinates there, and then, in a perfect world, that's supported and buoyed, that unique and authentic self-expression that we all have, because that's where we start, what we're all craving. And then, yeah, we need to sell tickets, or that might offend somebody, or that might be too left field or right. So yeah, things get watered down, unfortunately.
Well, and the watered down part is where the complacency begins, and everybody's and I'm sorry, like, okay, censorship, do we say? Because it's like, "Oh, well, we can't do that because of this," and it's like, but
Mm,
then you're not speaking your authentic truth, which is that creative expression, right?
mhm. That everybody has inside of themselves. It sounds different coming out of each of our mouths, but ultimately there's a resonance that we're all sort of craving, I would argue. I think we're seeing it bubbling up with all this hope back in the air for many, many, many of us. But I think you're right on. And it's so tempting to sort of blame the system, but I always like to bring it back to my own microcosm of I participated in that watering down of myself for so many years,
Right. I mean, and
right?
it's a huge disconnect, right? It's like,
Yeah,
or a misalignment,
yeah,
or, a compromise. It's
yeah,
a compromise.
yeah.
I love your reflection on that. I'm trying to say hi to Stephanie
I
Whitaker
Yes, she
in the
says hi.
chat, but it won't, like, let me respond to her. Y'all, the technology stuff has been real.
Yeah,
But that's, like, I love that you're empowering yourself
yeah,
by saying that was the role I played for myself, was to compromise that, because then you're out of that victim, which is like, it's the system, not me, and you're
right.
taking responsibility, and then like, okay, how can I empower myself so that I can be a stronger sovereign leader
Yeah,
in those aspects of my life?
yeah. It's a deep taking of responsibility, which can
Yeah.
be really scary. I think the fear, like for me, allowing the fear forth is part of it is just from sort of that covered up fear as a child, but as an adult now, it's because we are sort of responsible for creating not sort of, we are responsible for creating our own path forward. And the paradigm in which we contain ourselves and serve the world, like that is undefined for people when they're on purpose, on path, in alignment, and you sort of are creating it as you go along.
You're always I'm like, "You're such a Libra." I love it. I'm like, "You're always working out the balance and navigating," but
Both hands, both
and
hands.
I know, and
Ah,
it's so creative, like, but I've always seen you as such a beautiful creator of so
mhm.
many just stunning things, and
Thank
I've always found you to be courageous, like, as an
you.
outside person looking
Mm.
in, "Wow, she's crushing it. Oh, she's just going for it. Oh, she's" and then it's like, "Oh, I need to and here
Uh,
we are."
yeah, we are. And it's so funny because like you as a performer have courage that I don't think I ever had, because I think your talent, you add levels of talent with your voice and that I just don't possess. But I have experienced myself very differently than I think I've appeared on the outside. I am, accomplished to whatever, some degree. But it's all been through fear and, feeling like a fraud.
Feeling oh my gosh, feeling
Yeah.
like a fraud.
Yeah.
Isn't that the biggest freaking, conditioned program we place on ourselves?
Yeah.
It's like, and that's also where that disconnect from the heart is, we,
Yeah. It
like,
is.
overthink, we judge ourselves, we doubt ourselves, but that, like, inner child in our hearts is like,
Mhm.
"But I really wanna do this, and
Mm.
something in me is telling me that I can't go around, or that's still there," and
Mhm.
just in my evolution as a creator, the performing aspect of me and the spiritual aspect,
Mm.
psychic and astrology, it's like I was always trying to cut one out versus the other
Yeah. Yes.
instead of like bringing them together in a platform where they could work together,
And
right?
look at you now. It's so brilliant that you've created this platform where you get to share spiritual healing, goddess, mystical, translucent, transcendent ascension.
Thanks. Thanks, Hollis. I love you too.
I
So,
do
I
love
mean,
you.
okay, so now let's talk. Okay, because I've listened to a few of your podcasts open that door. So what was the evolution and the
Mhm.
transformation you went through from the administrating aspect
Mhm.
of arts to your podcast?
That's a great question. I moved away from arts administration into real estate, into sales.
Oh my
I
gosh.
know,
I
which
didn't
is
even know that.
yeah, and I did that, pretty much I started, like, the second before the pandemic hit, and Idaho happened to be, this hidden gem, get it? The potato wink, wink, the hidden gem state, and, half the country moved here. So I just kind of, took off running in sales, which was, I mean, really at the end of the day, even as an artist, we're selling. We have to still promote our work. So, becoming a realtor has been great as an entrepreneur. And again, it's just how we connect with people. It's just relationships. It's all relationships. Sales are authentically connecting with another person with a solution to a problem that may or may not work for them. It's
Yeah.
not about convincing somebody that they need something that they don't. But if somebody wants to buy a house and I'm available to serve them and we connect, and they trust me and I trust them, then it's this beautiful sort of, I call it my dating app. You get to date with a buyer for 6 weeks or 2 months or whatever. And and some of my clients have become my friends. So it's been lovely. Listing homes is a whole different thing because it's just like you have a product and you're marketing it and you're
Mm.
calling salespeople to come sell the home. So it's a different, less people focused. You're not interacting with people as much. But all this is to say is that it helped demystify, and it's still, I'm a work in progress, but demystify sales because there's such a stigma around asking people for money or offering, that exchange of money is such an interesting thing.
It is such an interesting thing.
It is, because we make money into something that it's not. It's a
Yes,
currency. Yes.
it's currency, it's a means to a goal, it is a commodity, it
Mhm.
is an energy,
Yeah.
it is and it's something that has been very programmed in our conditioning
Yeah.
as a society and as a country for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, just seeing how other countries live, if you've left the United States, it's so different. I mean,
Mhm.
I remember my first European tour, leaving at 18 and coming back, and I'm like, "Phew, America needs to read more." I was like, "Whoa." So
Yeah.
and thankfully, it was performing.
Yeah.
So but it's so fascinating you bring that up, especially with the economic state of
Mhm.
things right now, and,
Yeah.
this is not conspiracy. Like, we were talking backstage, like, with inflation and everything,
Yeah.
like, how are people making it? And it's
Mhm.
not to, like, bring fear or any of
Yeah.
that into the element, but the awareness, like, "Listen, y'all, we're all, like, in this together, and
Mhm.
what's gonna happen?" It's
There
so
It does feel like we're pressing against a, ceiling or a feeling that we haven't quite ventured into yet, with inflation and just this new kind of realm of expense, and I think as mothers, and I do wanna answer your question, I realized I didn't fully loop around to how all of this led me to creating a podcast, but
Oh, we're getting there, we're
I think
getting
it's
there,
just
girl.
so
I'm okay
yeah,
if we turn left and right
okay.
on the way as well. I'm like, let's just go with the flow of it, which
I
is
love it.
fun,
Yes.
there's those little gems on the side that it's like,
Yeah.
"Okay, we'll put that in the pot too."
Yes. I think as mothers, and you're a single mother, and I'm a breadwinning mother, that it's this added, like the panic can feel real in moments
Yeah,
because it's not I can go sleep on somebody's couch if I needed to, but I have two daughters who want I want them to have a feeling of security and safety and happiness and opportunity and possibility that is important to me to generate in them, so that they can have options as they move forward and know that fundamentally, foundationally, there aren't any cracks, that we're solid, and they don't have to worry about things that I worried about as a kid with a single mother, you
sure.
know. So yeah, I in this explore breaking down of my own falsehoods, my pretenses, pretending, trying to fit into like society works for all of us. The way, um, I pivoted and I've started coaching. And I think of myself as a new thought leader because I'm really interested in the future and what's forward, what's ahead for us. And I wanted to create a podcast. So I literally Googled, how do you create a podcast? And I followed the 12 steps, and there I am. And it works. It's not flashy. I know you can put fancy up your Zoom. I record it audioly and visually, and so it's fairly bare bones, but it's been really great.
Yeah, 'cause, and, I love the security and the abundance
Yeah.
and, that you're teaching your daughters and by still honoring that, integrity in yourself of like, "Okay, this is what I want. Okay, this
Mhm.
isn't working. I'm gonna renavigate this." And then the 12 steps of how to do a podcast.
Yeah.
It
A
sounds like
12-step
an
program.
AAA.
Yeah. I
Oh, and I wanna respond to everybody in the chat because 'cause we're live, and that's part of the fun of this, but
Yeah.
Restream just isn't doing it. Happy Mercury
Oh,
retrograde, y'all. I've hit enter several times, so hi, Stephanie Whitaker again, moving on. If anybody has questions for Hollis in the chat, please go ahead because 'cause we're just now starting to get into the juicy part of
mm,
her podcast. Now wait, so this is funny because I think I saw online, like, when did you start doing your podcast?
I started, April, I wanna say April 22nd, April of this year. So
Perfect. So
your yeah, your episode that just aired yesterday was episode 22. So
I'm
22.
episode 22. That's a master number, girl.
Yeah,
I
there
love
you go.
it.
There
I
you go. See?
Well, and so then, I went and did this Unite the Light
Mm,
conference with Serious Joy community that I do my daily sound drops, prayer, breath work
mm,
shows. And we did this Unite the Light. And then I announced that I was going to be doing this show on that stage. So I would actually do it and started
yes.
in June. But I just got back on socials back in February.
Mhm,
I was off of them for a few years. So
mhm.
then I saw that you were doing a podcast. I was like, what's my sister Hollis
I know.
doing? I was like, did we start this around the same
Yeah,
time? You're a little bit
yeah,
early. You're a little bit early. I love it.
yeah. Well, it's been so I mean, it's been so rewarding. Obviously, there's the obvious learning curves and the, I want to be consistent and have weekly content. So the Tuesday nights at 9 p.m.s, realizing I have a podcast publishing tomorrow at 5 p.m. and I haven't created it yet. So here we go. Buckle up. Um, and that's gotten easier, getting a little bit ahead of schedule and adding in my favorite part, which are my interviews with people like you. I love it.
I love it too. And you've got some really like deep deep guests. How do you find your guests? Or can people,
Yeah.
if they want to be a guest on your podcast, can they go to holliswelsh.com?
My website was sort of in hibernation for a while. So I have my podcast up there, but I have not integrated that. But they can go catch me on Facebook and DM me because I'm interested in having conversations. It's called Open That Door. And it's really about how we genuinely and earnestly go inside and face the obstacles with compassion because we know on some level that that's the way forward. It's all inside here. And yes, the world might be presenting us with some real challenges. I never diminish that. But the way through is found in here. And when we, remarry ourselves, when we go back to that inner child, when we heal, when we give space for the feelings inside ourselves that we're just constantly running away from and trying to disprove by, showing up in the world in ways that aren't really in alignment with ourselves. We then like harness our true power and our true authenticity. And there's just a reckoning because you're like, that doesn't really fit in. I was trying to fit into programs that were already existing. And now that I'm in alignment with myself, it's this new playground of possibility. And it's exciting and it's terrifying and it's worthy. It's so worth our time to do that.
It really is. And it's even worth the learning curve of all the technology.
Yes, yes, amen.
That's
I
where
mean, that's real. We're Gen X and it
I know,
doesn't come
right? I was
naturally.
like I was like, "God, did I come in too early? Should I have been a millennial?"
I know. I'm thoroughly impressed every time I see someone from my, decade just like nailing it. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
that's so
yeah,
great.
yeah. Well,
It's
and
a real thing. It's
so
possible though. I created a podcast. I put it on YouTube. Again, nothing fancy, but I did. If I can do it, you, whoever is listening, watching, can do whatever that thing is in front of you that is calling you to do. There is a way to do it.
to open that door. How did you come up with that title?
It's funny. It just all there was no effort in this. It just that's the title. That's what it was.
Yep.
It's almost like I just, like I opened the door to it and it was all there. And I just kind of had to put the pieces together. So that's such a good question, but that's it. It just was the name.
No, that's totally how I came up with "Who Are You?"
Yeah.
Because I was talking to my sister on FaceTime or whatever, and, I was at a Who concert in my mom's womb, and "Who Are You" came on, and, I was screaming before I came out, and I was like, "Oh, that's the name of my show.
Oh
Okay."
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just lands, and
Yeah.
I think that's the wonderful thing
Mm.
about these current creative lighted up energies as the old structures are
Yeah.
falling in on themselves,
Mhm.
and especially as that falling in on itself gets very loud this
Yeah.
fall,
Yeah.
it's going to be so important for us to go back in and connect with that authenticity.
Mm.
And so open that door and you were just like, "Okay, who's my first guest gonna be?"
Well, I didn't have guest at first. It was me, and I wrote that sucker out. And the first one, I was glued to that script. Was so afraid. I didn't want to make it. I didn't want to have any ums or
Oh my god, I
pauses.
love it. And me, I'm like, was I supposed to write a script?"
Ah, right, exactly. That's what I love about you is the fearlessness of like, let's go. So mine was I had to really hold my hand the first few ones, and then I found like it took just a couple to sketch out the script, and then I could go off the page a little bit, and I could I wrote it, so I was like I kind of know what I'm saying here. And then the brilliance of editing, I was like, if I had a pause of like, what is that chicken scratch? I have no idea what I'm saying. You can edit. And then I just did one without a script. It's finally like, and it worked. I actually had something to say. So there's definitely like a channeling of information that comes through. But then I decided to do a guest. So I think it's like a solo 1 week, a guest 1 week. That's kind of the rhythm that it's found. But my first one was I reached out to people from my life who at such a rich when I was in Seattle and when I was creating, and I could because I was young, and there was that permission at that time of my life to be more creative and less structured. So I started reaching out to people and it continued to you being one of them. You actually reached out to me, but it worked perfectly. And now I'm starting to meet people and be like, oh, you are really interesting. You want to be on my podcast. So the door will continue to open to just bringing people on who have something of value to say about our light.
Our light. It's
Yeah.
about our light.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, the wonderful thing that many of us are stepping into, which I think is the original calling for us to start these platforms, is to
Mm.
connect the light, connect the dots, right? Connect the light and get it. Because once it's all connected in the unseen, in the
Yeah.
field,
Yeah.
then it just builds and
Yeah.
builds and builds and builds.
Yes. And that's the gift. I'm sorry. I feel like you had more to say there, but I'm
No,
like, it's
no,
because
it's just gonna build until we're a
that's
sun,
trust,
like, that's
and
it.
that's the security for all. Like that's what's so brilliant is it's scary to go inward and start trusting ourselves and trusting like the channeling that comes through us when we commit to being creative. But that builds this infrastructure inside of us that is really unwavering. I mean, it's invisible, it's energetic more than but you're almost building that container from within that then holds you and creates this unshakable security because it's yours. Like it belongs to you. Yeah.
That's in and that is I'm with you infinity%, and what I love about that is, that is one of your main focuses as a mom to provide for your children.
Yes.
So you're like, "Oh, I hold on, I gotta do it for myself first," right?
Yes.
Like, and
Yes.
that's not selfish, everybody. This is how ascension and spiritual, authenticity truly does
Mhm.
work, if you're putting that mask on and you're
Mhm.
doing your kid first and then you're out of here, you can't do much,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
that inner heart work first, and
Yeah.
the confidence, the grace, the fear,
Mm.
the sweats, the nerves,
Yes.
it's funny because, I find in the coming together, like, I still get nervous for shows, and I'm
Oh,
like, I have performed on stage in front of thousands of
yeah.
people, and, like, I'm in my living room, my kids are playing in the with his best
Yeah.
friend in the thing, and I'm nervous. I'm like, "What?"
Mhm.
It's so
Yeah. Because it puts us at risk. I mean, that I would argue that is why we keep our light dimmed, because when we shine it, We know that, you have some beautiful comments coming up here. Carol, look, I need better glasses because I'm wearing them and I'm still squinting.
Oh, I
Um,
love it.
but
Thank
I,
you, girl.
most people are gonna love the light, right? And then there'll be the hurt person who has been taught to hurt. That's what they know. They don't know any different.
You don't
And so
have
they're
any
gonna,
other tools.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Like
they're
like
gonna hurt you or try to hurt you. And we are living, breathing people with hearts that feel things. So we can't pretend that something doesn't hurt when it hurts, but we can, as soon as we know, like, that's that, we can have this deep compassion for somebody who tries to hurt us because that's all they know how to do. Can you imagine? Can
yeah.
you imagine being a hater? They're in a cage that they don't know how to get out of because they don't know they're inside of it.
That is something I have seen so much in my own, because I have been on a battlefield quite literally,
Mhm.
and I've noticed the energy of it shift this last spring because I went through it was a long it was like a year and a half long battle, right, in my personal life, and
Mhm.
the energy that it was requiring of me. I mean, mind you, I channeled it into my girlfriend's body bar and I lost 25 pounds, and that's great. But at some point, in this past spring, actually, I think I was with the eclipses in April because I have a lot of Aries in my chart, which
Mhm.
opposes you. You're like, I know
Mhm.
so much about astrology, but
No,
Aries
I
is
love it.
the
Yeah.
of
Yeah. My
Venus.
mom and sister are Aries, and I'm a Libra. So you can imagine and
Oh,
I'm the youngest. Yeah. Imagine what that was like growing up.
well,
I love
especially
them.
because that's where these eclipses have shifted since July of
Yeah.
2021. So, or 22. Okay, so then what I noticed is because this is where it gets really good, because you're introducing the concept of compassion for
Yeah.
the wounded
Yes.
behavior, and I also love that you're like, you can't ever escape that
You cannot.
feeling. It has to be addressed. There's no time in this evolutionary ascension, energetic shifting, whatever phrasing you want to use. There's no time to emotionally
Yeah.
bypass the pain anymore because that pain is the dark heaviness in people's hearts
Mhm.
that these earthly and solar system and literally our sun shifts are shining the light onto
Yeah.
so that they can be seen, that false evidence appearing real, taken responsibility for, that you
Mhm.
so beautifully pointed out in the beginning of this, and then that light, and then the dance, and then the
Mm.
fun, and then the empowerment.
Amen. I hope this is being recorded because
It's totally being recorded.
you just scripted that out perfectly. That evolution, that is it. We have these dark clouds in our soul, our shadow selves and it's really is in our heart. But behind that is our light and love and power and gifts and connection and our ability to totally change the world. Each person has that. And so now we can't, you have to get to that light through that dark, through the injury.
Yep.
And so it's a welcoming, it's a welcoming to go in and because it really isn't that once we actually just shed light on our hurt,
Right.
it tells us what it needs. It just communicates. It's just having a conversation and holding space.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
needs our attention. Just needs us to look
Yeah.
at it and be like, "I'm sorry, sweetie, what
Yeah.
do you need?"
What do you need? Yeah.
And then when you realize how wounded and messed up people really are, and then it's like, okay, that was when I had to put the sword down and be like, okay,
Yeah.
how can I start praying for, my worst enemy or whatever, and
Right.
bring that compassion in to be like, I feel so, I'm so sorry for you,
Yeah. And a
like,
genuine, yeah, not from a
yeah,
place of pity, a
meant
place of deep empathy. We've all, I can speak for myself. I've been there. I've kept myself small and small-minded and judgmental. For so many years, I feel like I'm finally breaking through, but it was only when I dared or out of necessity stopped and went within to see what was really going on, and all the hurt and all the fear in here. And but now I'm like my own partner. I'm my best friend. I'm my mother, my father, my sister, my brother, all of those things. And you realize like there is this small, delicate child within us still, and that has so much information for us and tells us what we need in those vulnerable, tender moments. And then there's the warrior inside of us, the front, who can go out into the world and be our biggest, boldest, brightest selves. And I don't mean we have to be loud or flashy, but it's the forward facing part of ourselves that carries our light forward and creates safety for us and other people, and sees beyond the smallness that human nature brings forward in the form of mean comments or other people wielding their swords because they don't know how to put them down yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And to have gratitude for those tough battles or whatever, or the shadow work that we do, because of the responsibility and learning, it's like, "Oh, this is up to me."
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay, okay. And, like, thank you for the growth. Thank you. And then that gets a whole nother, like, I mean, gratitude can
Mhm.
shift just about anything in
It
my
sure can.
you know,
Yeah. And gratitude, I find, I have a story about what gratitude's supposed to feel like.
"Ooh, I
'Cause
wanna hear it."
well, I think that I sometimes think, or happiness feels, gratitude is this. I don't always think the emotion is going to feel the way the emotion feels. So gratitude is more of a practice of, even if I feel shitty or hurt or angry, I'm going to choose to see this as a gift to help me uh, peel a layer away.
Yeah.
That's gratitude. It doesn't have to feel like, rainbow. And gratitude is a practice, not a feeling, not a sensation.
It is a practice, absolutely. And it's like, okay, and it's like, yeah, it's and it's okay to feel shitty.
Yeah,
Like,
it
this
is.
ascension process is hard, y'all. It's
Yeah,
humbling, and, like,
yeah.
well, we gotta buckle up, and this is, like, where all of, these conscious tools that we've been working on our whole lives,
Mhm, mhm.
really are gonna come into play and get tested, or like, "Ooh, ooh, ooh," and, I mean, being a mother has been a very humbling process.
Very much so. Oh, man.
Oh, because I worked with kids for most of my life. I was teaching kids yoga in LA, got a
Mhm.
Sundance song, all that stuff, and then I had my own at 40. I was like, "Oh, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, alright." Um, so, okay, this is something I wanna know about your podcast. Do you have a favorite episode?
Oh, I'm no, and I say that because I feel like I should. So the answer is
Oh,
no.
oh,
They're
that's
all my
emotional.
children, and I love them all equally. I really don't have a favorite because every single one, even ones where, I felt like, is this working? Some of them is just obvious where it just takes off, and there's always these nuggets of truth. And every single time somebody responds and says that thing you said or she said or there's always something that somebody takes away from. And to me, it's just proof that we truly can connect human to human with anybody, because fundamentally what's at work inside of us is this undefinable energy that we all come from in the first place.
And
Yeah.
that's the unity consciousness we all came here to create together.
Hmm.
And I think that's, more compassion, more gratitude, more
Hmm.
humbling, more humility,
Yes.
more forgiveness,
Yes,
more
and letting oneself off the hook. Like, I feel like my message I'm here to share in part is teaching people how to give themselves permission to stop pretending and just be authentic. You don't have to show up in any way. You just show up authentically, and that's your power.
Yep.
You don't have to be polished or look anyway. Things can be messy when you're taking responsibility
Absolutely.
for your own stuff.
Oh my gosh, I think
Yeah.
I did a show on Serious Joy after I got some really bad news, and I literally fried an egg and I put it on my face. And I was like, and
That
that's how the
egg.
show started, and I was like, "Y'all, I'm not sugarcoating anything.
Yeah,
I've been crying. I did cry." It was like,
yeah,
"This is it.
yeah. This is life.
This is life. This
Yeah,
it can be messy.
yeah.
Birth is messy.
It is
Birthing
messy.
this
Yeah,
new earth is
yeah,
gonna be messy."
yeah.
Right? It's like, okay, what can we do to prepare for that mess? And it's
Mhm.
literally coming together more in these connections and just showing up. It's okay if you're a mess. It's okay if you're in slippers. It's okay if you're in your bathrobe. Like, just
Yeah,
show up to be
exactly.
there for your fellow human any way that you can and realize it doesn't the story and the illusion
Yeah,
of
yeah.
that story and those narratives, anything outside of this, our hearts is
Mm,
that's the show. That's the
that's the
illusion,
show.
right?
Right. Bringing back that's the performance.
Yeah.
And when we're in performance mode all the time, trying to present a front that we have it all figured out, it's just false. It's so much energy spent getting in your own way.
Yeah,
Mm,
absolutely, because 'cause you're not being authentic, and it's
yeah,
exhausting
it's
to
exhausting.
maintain that.
It's
But,
it's
I
exhausting.
mean
It's exhausting.
well, I think that goes back to, where we're both, like, just interviewing who and saying and speaking our truth, like, "Oh, I can't play that game anymore and play that role and do that in performing anymore because
Mhm.
I have so much more wisdom to share."
And I'm being called to use my limited time and my energy and my purpose and my soul in a totally different way. That there's I don't entertainment is awesome. There's a reason for it. It brings joy to us. It makes us think and laugh and gives us a break from a hard, maybe a hard day or it's not the realm that I'm being called to play in anymore. It's really about showing up authentically so I can help be a reminder for people that you can just shed it all, embrace your true power, open your mouth and let your truth out, and yeah, heal, clean up here, stay in your lane in terms of
Yeah,
responsibility.
yeah, and
Yeah,
be seen,
and be
it's
seen.
okay to be seen. And, it's okay to disagree with others, but you
Yeah.
don't have to be a dick.
You don't have to be a dick. And where did the idea come from that when I'm in my authentic power and I'm being seen and contributing in my unique way, and I have certain beliefs and views, and then I connect with you and you totally disagree about something, ho- why is there's no problem there, right? If that's your truth and it's not hurting anybody else, it's not destroying something of value of somebody else's, it's not hurting yourself, we don't have to be totally parallel with somebody, and we can still be totally connected.
Absolutely. Because that just gives me the visual of, the tapestry of humanity, and, we're moving into the age of Aquarius at
Mhm.
November 19th officially, but it's the uniqueness of everyone's
Yeah.
unique frequency that not another soul in the entire universe has, and that it all
Mhm.
comes together like that tapestry, and it's just it's perfect. It's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, my frequency's here, so yours could be here is
Yeah.
here," and then it
Yeah.
just right? And
Yes.
it does that blending, that's the unity consciousness, and I really do feel I know in my heart of hearts, like, that is the ultimate calling for all of humanity, and it's
Yeah.
gonna get bumpy, but we're doing it, and we're
Yeah.
doing such a kick-ass job, like, we're ahead of s
Yeah.
We're ahead of those things, and that's when it starts to get really exciting, and it's like, oh my gosh, all these solar flares and volcanoes, and everybody's like, "Ah, it's like, no, she's birthing right now. This is birth. Earthquakes are cramps. Okay. All right. Wait till her water breaks, like
Yeah.
next in 29 until September.
Uh, I
Talk
love it.
Gaia, our planet.
Yes.
So I have what do you have like three insights you've gained
Mm.
with your open that door? I mean, I
Mhm.
know the inner I totally get the inner, reflections and
Yeah.
evolutions that you've moved through, but
Mhm.
has there been anything that maybe a guest has shared for
Mhm.
you or that inspired a new question or perspective that has helped you
Mhm.
aha or something
Mhm.
profound that you would like to share with today's guests?
People are awesome. People are brave, and people are willing to show up when you invite them to,
Mm,
and meet them where they are. The courage and the honesty that people have brought forth um, in these conversations has been just so refreshing. Such
mm,
a reminder that the illusion that there's an us and us and them, and we're fractured. It's just not real. It's not real. It's media driven, and we can buy into it, and then whatever we're believing and whatever's in front of our face, it's going to show up. But when we put that aside, at the end of the day, you just fall in love with the person you're talking to. So everybody is just so lovable and worthy and divine and so wise. Like, I listen to you, and your wisdom is just so forward and forthcoming, and so part of who you are. So I'm so glad you've given yourself this platform to share that wisdom, because it's going to make such a difference. And then the other thing, you said three, but the second thing is that consistency changes your life. Like,
mm.
show up and stick with it, because I can't tell you how many weeks of like, oh my God, what have I done? I have to create, this a weekly commitment to a podcast that
Yeah.
takes so much time to do and edit. And then if you want to pay somebody to do it, it's like, so, the price tag is high. So when I'm at a place where I can like hand some of this work off, I'll do that. But consistency, like showing up for who you are. Like, things are not bigger than you are. You are capable of continuing on a path that's serving your soul. So just stay on it. Like, keep doing it, and pretty soon all those obstacles and resistance in oneself, it just starts to fade away, and then
Well,
it
and
just gets easier.
it's just fear of the unknown,
Yeah.
like, and everyone is so tired with these new energies coming in as well. It's just like, oh my gosh. And I love it. You're like, every Tuesday, 9 o'clock. I was like, oh God, if I do that, my inner child is
No, I
kicking
know.
and screaming. She's like,
Yeah,
listen, you can commit to once a week, but it's going to be whenever you want it
I
to
love
be.
it.
I'm like, all right, girl. Okay, that's how we'll do it. That's
That's
how
commitment
we'll do it.
though. That's commitment though. You're still showing, and sometimes I question that, I don't want to ever be so rigid in my life, because again, if we're creating from scratch, and this feminine force is leading the way forward, it can look however the hell we want it to look, as long as we're in service and consistent and showing up, and being reliable. Um, so the third thing, oh my goodness, that I have something to say. Who knew? I have something
Mhm.
to say.
Yep.
Who knew? I can tell you, my young Holly, the girl I was growing up, didn't have she kept her mouth shut, because that was kind of
Safe.
what she had to do.
Mm.
So who
Mm.
knew that I could open this mouth and have something to say that has meaning, and is in service to the
And
greater good.
has so much meaning and so much profundity
Mm.
and just this grace and your wisdom as well and the navigating and the wisdom itself, just like in the us and them, like that's
Mm.
an illusion and a reminder we create what we focus on.
Amen.
So if we keep
Mhm.
focusing on that divisive program and illusion, us versus them, it will feed that
You'll find
story.
it. You'll
Yeah.
find proof. Yeah, if you say so.
Yeah.
I always like to if you say so.
Well, you're saying so, and I love what you're saying.
Thank you. Oh.
And wait, there was something you we were in the green room before the show,
Mhm.
and
Oh.
wanted these people to hear, you're like, "I've wanted to do this ever since I was 18."
Oh, yeah. So, yes. So, I know where this is the space. So, when I was, 18, well, so I grew up being called Holly Welsh, and that's not who I was. So, when I was 18, or legally, I changed my name to Hollis. But I wanted to also change my last name to let's see, my maternal grandfather's mother's last name. She was kind of a badass. And her name was Rosalie Rohrer, Rohrer. And I wanted to also give myself that last name. And I got talked out of it at an acting school. The head of this great, lovely man was like, and I kind of just I let myself get talked out of my identity. So I
Mm.
was saying, before this podcast really takes off, there's an opportunity right now to shift and just really take on that new name. And it's an exercise in giving myself permission to do something that doesn't make any sense to a lot of people.
I love it. Well, but that's what Libra does. It's constantly, and with the South Node, it's gonna
Yeah.
be there until the spring.
Uh,
So we're all working on the relationship with ourselves right now with it
mm,
at the first decan, but we're working on what relationship with ourselves is no longer serving us and that we need to
mm,
let go of as a humanity, because that's the astrology. So you'll probably know which way you want
mm.
that to go, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happens in Aries season again.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's so, that just goes to, like, I wanted to change my name when I was little too, and,
Mhm.
I think it's your inner child that I was listening to when you said Holly. I was like, "Oh, wait, there's that story,"
Yeah.
and it's so exciting when we're in that warrior energy because you wanna be a roarer, you
It's
wanna
interesting.
be that woman that's roaring her truth because you
Yeah.
were so silenced for so long, and
Yes.
it's like, "Okay, okay, but we're doing it gracefully. We're all doing it together.
Mm,
We all have the masculine and feminine. We all have these aspects that have been imbalanced within
mhm,
each of us." So this is the inner work and maintaining that neutral authenticity that
mm,
really helps us be in more love and that light.
mm.
Oh,
Yeah, I love that. I love it. It is. I just think life is short. I always think, let's look back, let's go to the end and look back. What that old wise lady that I'm going to be at 104, because I keep
what?
telling my kids I'm going to live
What?
to 104.
Listen, I know. Listen, girl. I'm aiming for 125.
Okay,
Okay,
well, there you go.
I can kick and stretch, and I think we are like
Yeah.
we're crushing
As
it.
long as you can lift your leg up over your head at 125, I love it. So yes, you and I will be walking these old lady bodies together in our hundreds. But I want to be, from that perspective of that old woman, like look back on your life and say, I'm so glad I did that. Because who cares? And why not? Who cares? Nobody. Because the next person is in their own world wondering, should I color my hair? Should I change my name? Should I wear these shoes? Should I speak up in that boardroom? Should I, nobody cares because we all care, um, globally about how things go, but nobody really cares about the details that somebody else is making in their life.
No, especially if it doesn't affect them.
Exactly. And it doesn't. And maybe they'll think of something for a second and judge it because that's what we do. So give yourself permission to be judged and unliked and hated because it's going to happen. And if we're just working our whole lives to avoid that moment, of somebody hating us. It just ruins
Been there,
everything. We've
been
spent our
there.
and then we spend our whole lives
Well, and
not
I
being who we
think
really are.
yeah, and, you've I've known about, the practice of giving ourselves permission as
Mhm,
well, and you've mentioned that sprinkled throughout this
mhm.
broadcast, and it's so true. That's how we maintain any of that. It's like, you don't ha are you my mother? And even that doesn't matter, especially when we're grown women,
Yeah,
but, like, to give
yeah,
ourselves
those
that
things.
permission,
Yeah.
that's it.
And we have to have our own backs when we do that. And so that is the work of going inside and collecting that, terrified little person inside of you and becoming the guardian of that part of yourself, which will come up again. It's not like you go and you have one conversation and everything's healed. You will have those recurring shadow feelings for the rest of your life. But when you befriend them and make space for them and like, okay, I'm here. Tell me what you need me to hear. And I love you and I'm loving on you. And I got you, then it just becomes easier and that union and the shadow side of ourselves. The more light it has, the smaller the shadow becomes.
Yes, and we can't have one without the other.
Correct. Correct. And there's a lot of fun in the dark,
Yeah,
like as a creator, it starts in the dark,
yeah, in the
right?
womb.
Yeah. Well, that literally, yeah. But also figuratively,
Yeah,
when you're
totally.
creating that one woman show or the podcast theme or that speech you're gonna give or the gift, it comes from that, place of nothingness,
Yeah,
which is kind of dark, and then you start bringing light to it, and then you're creating, and then you bring forth something into reality that didn't exist anymore, and that's magic and powerful.
and that is the perfect way to end this 0-degree first step of Virgo season, because this is where we really do dismiss the illusion and
Mm.
turn our dreams into the reality for all of humanity to witness. And it is a unified job.
Mm. Yay.
Yeah.
Do it.
I
Do it,
love
ladies and
Do you
gents.
do you have I mean, that was amazing. Do you
Yeah,
have anything else you wanna say?
nothing.
I
It's
love
all it's all been we said it all. We
it
covered it all.
so much. Like, we traversed, I think, the parallel universe even.
Mm.
We did
Yeah,
it. Okay.
we did.
Hollis Welsh. Oh my gosh, y'all,
Mm.
go listen to Hollis Welsh's amazing Open That Door podcast. She is just such divine beauty and
Mhm.
relatedness. Hi, Anne
Mhm.
Marie Hubbard. And it has been such an honor and delight to have your gracefulness, your beauty, your creatrixness, and your authenticity and your light,
Mhm.
on my show today, and I thank you with all my heart, and I
Mhm.
love you, sister.
I love you. Thank you so much for inviting me on. This has been a true pleasure.
Thank
A
you.
true
Now don't
pleasure.
hang up after this.
Okay, I'll
Okay,
stay on.
okay. All right. Hey, everybody, thank you so much. Hey, like and subscribe on YouTube, share with your friends, like, let's get the party started. Love you.